The moment Kellyanne Conway began screaming live on national television, millions thought Jasmine Crockett would break. But what happened instead left the internet on fire. Conway's voice cut through the studio like glass, sharp, shrill, relentless. Her words weren't just arguments, they were volleys of fury, spit out with the kind of venom meant to rattle anyone caught in their path. Cameras zoomed in as her hands gestured wildly, her face tightening with each syllable, the heat of her anger radiating through the screen. On the split screen, Jasmine Crockett sat still. No flinch, no flash of irritation, no visible crack in her composure. While Conway's every breath seemed designed to escalate, Crockett's silence told another story. A story of someone choosing restraint over reaction, dignity over chaos. The contrast was magnetic. Viewers at home leaned closer to their screens, sensing that this was not just another political spat. It was a collision of two worlds, two energies, two Americas. Conway's tone rose higher. She accused, interrupted, hurled talking points like darts. Her volume alone seemed meant to drown out everything else in the room. The studio air grew thick, charged, as though everyone present knew they were witnessing a storm about to collide with stone. Crockett's stillness became the center of gravity. She blinked, once, twice, her lips pressed together. And that silence, in the midst of Conway's storm, carried more weight than any counterpunch could have at that moment. Social. Media was already buzzing. Clips of Conway's rage were being clipped, tweeted, and shared in real time. Commentators rushed to frame it. Was Crockett being overpowered, or was something else unfolding? To some, it looked like surrender. To others, it looked like patience, forged from something deeper, the kind of patience that only reveals itself in the next move. The studio lights seemed to dim, or perhaps it was the weight of what hung in the air. The shouting kept coming, words piled on words, a flood of sound, but audiences began to notice that the real drama was no longer Conway's screaming. It was Crockett's silence. It was the question building in everyone's mind. How would she answer? And in just seconds, her reply would flip the entire narrative upside down. In a nation already fraying at the seams, this wasn't just another heated exchange on live television. It was the reflection of an America standing at a crossroads. On one side stood Kellyanne Conway, a figure who had built her reputation on volume, spectacle, and sharp-edged spin. She was the loud force, embodying the defiance of those who believe dominance comes through noise. On the other sat Jasmine Crockett, a rising congresswoman with a different kind of power. The quiet storm, steady and unyielding, carrying herself with the weight of a new vision for leadership. Their collision wasn't merely about policy or sound bites. It was about identity, about what kind of voice truly holds sway in the public square. The timing of this clash made it even more electric. America was reeling from cultural battles over immigration, voting rights, and whose voices truly count in democracy. Families were split, friendships tested, neighborhoods divided. People weren't just watching a debate. They were searching for signs of which America was winning. The America of screaming matches and domination, or the America of composure, patience, and measured strength. Conway represented a playbook the country knew well. Overwhelm the opponent, seize the stage, make noise so thunderous that reason drowns. To her supporters, that defiance was power. To her critics, it was the theater of arrogance. Crockett, meanwhile, entered this moment carrying something different. Her very presence as a young black congresswoman already challenged the old order. She had been underestimated before, dismissed, and even mocked. Yet here she was, not just holding her own, but waiting with a poise that unsettled those used. To chaos ruling the day. The symbolism didn't go unnoticed. Commentators on the left and right had long debated whether calm could truly stand against rage, whether dignity could cut through the noise. On this night, the answer to that question began to unfold in real time. Viewers watching from home could sense it. They weren't just seeing Conway versus Crockett, they were watching the embodiment of two Americas colliding. One America believed shouting was strength, that domination equaled victory. The other believed composure was power, that strength revealed itself in the ability to stay grounded when others tried to provoke. The stakes of this encounter were bigger than television ratings. For immigrants, for women, for communities of color, and for millions who had grown weary of the constant storm of political rage, Jasmine Crockett's posture on that stage carried weight. Every second she held her silence against Conway's. barrage. She reminded people that power does not always come from volume. Sometimes the sharpest weapon is restraint, and this is why what came next mattered so profoundly. It wasn't just that Conway screamed, it wasn't just that Crockett remained calm. It was that Crockett's response, calm, measured, but piercing, became a line in the sand. What came next was not just a reply. It was a statement that defined dignity in real time, a moment destined to be replayed again and again, not for the insult Conway delivered, but for the way Crockett answered it. The audience didn't know it yet. Neither did Conway, who was still pushing her voice into the air like a storm unwilling to quiet. But the reply that was about to come would ripple far beyond that studio. It would remind a divided America that sometimes history changes not with a scream, but with a calm reply that refuses to bow. To understand the weight of that screaming moment on live television, one has to understand the force of personality behind it. Kellyanne Conway is not just another commentator or former political advisor. She is, in many ways, the architect of a style of politics that thrives on friction, spectacle, and relentless domination of airtime. For years, she built a reputation as one of the most media-savvy strategists in America, someone who could step into any studio, sit across from any host, and walk out having turned the conversation entirely on its head. To her supporters, she was a warrior, unafraid to confront critics, armed with sharp comebacks and steely confidence. To her detractors, she was the very embodiment of spin, someone who could twist any narrative, however implausible, into a weapon. Her notoriety reached its peak with one unforgettable phrase: alternative facts. In a single moment, Conway crystallized both her talent and her controversy. She didn't just answer questions, she reframed reality itself, leaving journalists stunned and audiences either furious or fascinated. That phrase became a symbol of an era, one where truth could be bent, perception could be weaponized, and the loudest voice in the room often drowned out the most reasonable. For some, it was clever strategy. For others, it was proof that the political stage had descended into theater. But if nothing else, it showcased Conway's survival skills. Through scandal, mockery, and endless criticism, she endured. While others were sidelined or silenced, she always found her way back to a camera, back to the headlines, back to the role of provocateur-in-chief. Her resilience was not just political, it was performative. She thrived on conflict, knowing that the more heated the exchange, the more attention she commanded. Her style was almost gladiatorial. When confronted, she attacked. When questioned, she deflected with flair. When pressed into a corner, she redefined the terms of the debate entirely. Kellyanne Conway didn't enter a television studio to participate in conversation. She entered to dominate. And in that sense, she was nearly unbeatable. Hosts could prepare, opponents could rehearse, but once the lights came on and the cameras rolled, Conway's ability to seize control of the energy in the room often left them scrambling. That mastery of chaos is precisely why the showdown with Jasmine Crockett carried such weight. This wasn't just any outburst. It was the culmination of a career built on intensity. By the time Conway's voice rose to a scream that night, it was the purest distillation of the style she had perfected. Overwhelm the opponent, unsettle the audience, and win by sheer force of will. She had done it countless times before. Viewers could recall her parries on Sunday talk shows, where she faced down seasoned journalists with the same unwavering smirk and rapid-fire delivery. She had sparred with politicians, activists, and reporters, always turning the exchange into a theater of confrontation. Even when cornered with facts she couldn't easily dismiss, Conway would pivot, doubling down with the kind of audacity that left critics breathless. In her world, hesitation was weakness. The goal was not persuasion, but control.